You know, the AFC West may be the most unpredictable division in 2024. As in, I have absolutely no idea how I would expect these teams to perform, except for one. And we all know who that is. What's going on, guys? Six Report here, back to another video. Today we were talking about the AFC West, and this is really a division where the success that these teams have could depend on whether they have a good draft or not. And I'll explain more of that as I break these teams down, but that really could be the difference between having a successful season and having a complete failure. Let's talk about the Denver Broncos. Okay, so the Broncos are clearly in rebuild mode now. I mean, they cut Russell Wilson, but they owe him a lot of money. And I mean a lot. There's a reason Pittsburgh signed him to the league minimum, because of how much money the Broncos owe him. Especially next offseason. I don't know how the Broncos are going to handle that. But anyway, he was not the only piece that's gone. Jerry Jeudy has been traded to the Cleveland Browns and then signed an extension. I already covered that. Josie Jewell is gone. So is Lord Cushenberry. Justin Simmons was cut. Jonathan Harris is also gone. They were able to bring back Will Lutz. He is one of the better kickers in the NFL, so that's good to have if the game comes down to whether a field goal is made or not. Adam Troutman's back, Michael Burton, and little Jordan Humphrey. Does anybody else just love saying his name? Anyway, they did bring in Brandon Jones, Josh Reynolds, Corey Barton, and Malcolm Roach. But again, this is a team that's clearly in rebuild mode now, and I do understand why people say they could trade up to take a quarterback. Teams in rebuild mode, it does start with a franchise QB, but I'm going to put a pin in that because I just don't see the Broncos doing that because of the trades that they made the last few off seasons. I mean, they gave up a lot of draft capital for Russell Wilson and Sean Payton. I don't know if they're going to want to do that again. And really, this is a team that needs to put talent in this locker room. They have to get as much talent as they can the next few years. And if you're trading away assets to get a franchise quarterback, I don't know if that's going to move the needle much because there's no guarantee that the team that you're going to have is going to be able to help out a young quarterback. I mean, we have seen teams do this in the past, but sometimes it's going to work, sometimes it doesn't. And really it depends on what kind of team you have when you make this trade. Look at what the 49ers did when they traded up for Trey Lance. They had a team in place that could handle a young quarterback. Turns out they were right, just with the wrong quarterback. Trey Lance is no longer with the 49ers. He wasn't even on the roster last year. They got lucky and they found Brock Purdy as the last pick of the draft. Now, again, it's not always going to work out. And I don't know if the Broncos are going to want to take this risk again one more time. They need to get talent in this locker room. Now, what else do they need? Courtland Sutton could be the next to go, so definitely wide receiver has to be on their mind. Definitely on the offensive line, especially if Garrett Bowles is not in the long-term plans. And on defense, they have Patrick Surtain, but who else? Who else do they expect to be there long-term? Really, for the Broncos, it's going to be about just getting the best players that they can in the draft. Now, whether they trade for a franchise quarterback or not remains to be seen, but at the moment, I'm just not seeing it. Well, Chris Jones is back in a Chiefs uniform. Really, is anybody truly shocked? Did we really think he wasn't going to be back with the Chiefs? I didn't. I knew he was going to be back. But L'Jarius Sneed is gone. He was traded to Tennessee, and that's a big hole to fill. He's the one that caused the Zay Flowers fumble in the AFC Championship game to keep it a 2-score lead for the Chiefs. So that's a big hole to fill in that secondary. Trent McDuffie is still there, but would definitely want to get another guy at the cornerback position. Now, who else did they get back? Derek Nottie is back. He is a very good defensive tackle for them, so it was good to have him back. Michael Dana's back. Trayshawn Ward, Deion Bush, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire is back. That's kind of shocking to me. I didn't think he would be back with the Chiefs, but here we go. Now, who did they bring in? Carson Wentz as the backup to Patrick Mahomes. Irv Smith Jr. as a backup tight end to Travis Kelce. He's a pretty good player, so that's a good backup tight end to have. And then they got Marquise Brown. Now, that's a good add to a receiving corps that struggled mightily last year and did lose some pieces in the offseason, just not as a number one. I do expect the Chiefs to go receiver early in this draft, probably their first round pick. If they don't, then they're definitely going to get one in the second round. But having Marquise Brown, it's not the worst thing in the world for a receiving core. Now, Donovan Smith is gone. He was their left tackle last year. Nick Allegheny, sorry if I said that wrong. Tommy Townsend, their punter, is gone. Willie Gay is gone. Mike Edwards, Cole Hardman, and Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Now, I did mention wide receiver, and I mentioned corner, but Willie Gay is gone. He was a big part of that linebacking core. Definitely could see the Chiefs go linebacker in the draft as well, just to fill that void. And really, right now, it's just about getting the right players in this locker room so that they can try for the three-peat that has never been done before. But if anybody's going to pull it off, it's going to be Mahomes, Kelsey, and Reed. And you know what? I'm putting their shot at doing this at 95%. Yeah, I'm going that high with their shot. Alright, let's talk about the Raiders. Ever since Sam and I did the quarterback prospect video, the thought of the Raiders taking a QB has just left my mind. And I would say it's probably more likely that they go into the season with Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell as their top two QBs than them taking a quarterback in the first round. And I'm going to explain why, but let me talk about what they did during the offseason. So, of course, they brought in Gardner Minshew to replace Jimmy Garoppolo. Garoppolo was just a disappointment for the Raiders last year. They lost John Jenkins, but they brought in Christian Wilkins on a big deal from Miami, but Josh Jacobs is gone. Josh Jacobs is gone. Alexander Madison is there to replace him. Also, Harrison Bryant has been brought in to replace Austin Hooper. Cody White here, they also signed in free agency, and he's going to be replacing Jermaine Alamani. Sorry if I said that wrong. Mick Robinson and Jerry Tillery are also gone, and they cut Hunter Renfrow. So they got a pretty decent haul in free agency, but they did lose some pieces in both Renfrow and Jacobs. And this is why I could see them just going with Minshew and O'Connell, just because this is a team that needs to see what they have in terms of their young guys. You know, they do have Max Crosby. They have Devontae Adams. Colton Miller is still a pretty solid tackle. And you're hoping guys like Michael Mayer and Tyree Wilson have breakout second years in the NFL. But really, with the Raiders, and when it comes to the draft, I could just see them trying to fill the big needs that they have, or just taking the best player available. I would keep an eye on Mitchell, the corner from Toledo, just because he's very, very fast, and we know how much the Raiders love speed. Even without Al Davis, I mean, they just love players that have a lot of speed. Definitely could see a receiver to replace Hunter Renfrow, and really just the best player available, no matter the position in the NFL draft. I just could see that with the Raiders, because this is a team that definitely needs to get some more talent. But again, they have some talent, so maybe they could do something this year. Maybe they could surprise some people, and that's just why I don't necessarily think that it's an automatic that the Raiders are going to get a rookie quarterback in this year's draft. I was on record of saying I could see Michael Penix to the Raiders. I just think that that would be a good fit, just because you know how much the Raiders just love being different from everybody else in the league. And Michael Penix, I mean, a left-handed, strong-arm quarterback. But it also wouldn't surprise me if the Raiders just didn't take a quarterback at all. And really, the Raiders could be the most unpredictable team going into the draft, where we're not entirely sure what they're going to do. Okay, so there were two teams that I complained a lot about last year. One was the Falcons, the other was the Chargers. Man, that team should have been in the playoffs, even if it was just a 7th seed. They had too much talent to miss the playoffs. And now a lot of that talent is gone. Just start with the skill positions. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Austin Eckler are gone. To replace Eckler, they got Gus Edwards from the Baltimore Ravens. But that's not all they lost. Gerald Everett is also gone, but he was replaced by Will Dissly. And that's something that the Chargers did. Players that they lost, they brought in cheaper options to help replace them. So they also lost Kenneth Murray and Eric Kendricks, but they bring in Denzel Perryman and Troy Dye. And Christian Fulton was brought in to replace Michael Davis. But one thing they didn't replace was their 2 wide receivers. And also the offensive line is still a huge need. So that's going to be what they do in the draft. Round 1, quarterback, offensive line, whatever they want to do. Round 2, whatever they didn't pick in round 1. Those are their 2 biggest needs. Because right now, the offensive line is still a mess. I mean, you have Slater as your left tackle, but who else? Who else is there for the Chargers? I can't think of anybody else that's on that offensive line right now. And then wide receiver, right now, Josh Palmer and Quentin Johnston are their top 2 receivers. Josh Palmer, he is not a number 1 in this league. And Quentin Johnston, are you expecting improvement from year 1 to year 2? Yes. However, he struggled mightily as a rookie. I'm not putting all my eggs into the basket of Quentin Johnston just turning into a number 1 bona fide receiver. It just doesn't happen overnight like that. So definitely wide receiver and offensive line, that has to be their top 2 needs going into the draft. And it's got to be round 1, wide receiver, offensive line, who's ever higher on their board, because somebody's going to be there. Joe Alt's going to be there, and probably 2 or maybe all 3 of the top receivers are going to be there. If Marvin Harrison Jr. is there at number 5, that's most likely going to be their pick. And then in round 2, there's going to be plenty of both wide receivers and offensive linemen that they're going to be able to take. So that's pretty much the Chargers draft in a nutshell. Wide receiver, offensive line, round 1, round 2, and then just finish building this team and see what Jim Harbaugh can do. If he gets the Chargers into the playoffs this year, then he is a bona fide miracle worker, and we should all bow to him. Alright guys, those were my thoughts on the AFC West, and I got 1 division left. It's the NFC West, and then after that video comes mine and Sam's mock draft. So as always, I'll see you guys next time.